On the Red Fork, Lord Jason Lannister found himself facing the Lord of Pink Maiden, Peter Piper, and the Lord of Wayfarer's Rest, Trista Vance. Though the Westermen outnumbered their foes, the Riverlords knew the ground well. 3 times the Lannister-led forces tried to cross the river, and thrice they were driven back. In the last attempt, Lord Jason Lannister was dealt a mortal wound. The 4th Lannister attack was successful. This time, it was Lord Vance who fell, slain by Sir Adrian Tarback, who had taken command of the Western Army. Tarback and 100 knights stripped off their heavy armour and swam the river upstream of the battle, then circled about Lord Vance's lines from the rear. The ranks of the Riverlords shattered in an instant, and the Westermen came swimming across the Red Fork by the thousands. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to the dying Lord Jason Lannister and his bannermen, fleets of longships from the Iron Islands fell upon the shores of Lannister lands, led by Dalton Greyjoy of Pike. Courted by both claimants to the Iron Throne, the Red Kraken had made his choice. His Iron Men could not hope to breach Castle Rock once Lady Joanna Lannister had barred the gates, but they did seize 3/4 of the ships in the harbour and sank the rest, then swarmed over the walls of Lannisport to sack the city, making off with uncounted wealth and more than 600 women and girls, including Lord Jason's favourite mistress and his bastard daughters. Far across the realm, Lord Wallace Mouton led 100 knights out of Maidenpool to join with the Crabs and the Bruins of Crackclaw Point and the Counterguards of Claw Isle. Through piney woods and mist-shrouded hills, they hastened towards Rook's Rest, where their sudden appearance took the garrison by surprise. After retaking the castle, Lord Mouton led his bravest men to the Field of Ashes to the west of the castle to put an end to Aegon II's wounded dragon, Sunfire. The dragon slayers easily drove off the guards who had been left behind to feed and protect the beast, but Sunfire himself proved to be more formidable than expected. Dragons are awkward creatures on the ground, and his torn wing left Sunfire unable to take the air. The attackers expected to find the beast near death. Instead, they found him sleeping, but the clash of swords soon roused him, and the first spear to strike him provoked him into fury. Slimy with mud, twisted amongst the bones of countless sheep, Sunfire withered and coiled like a serpent, his tail lashing, sending blasts of golden flame at his attackers as he struggled to fly. 3 times Sunfire rose, and 3 times he fell back to earth. Mouton's men swarmed around with swords and spears, dealing him many grievous wounds, yet each blow only seemed to anger him further. The number of dead reached 70 before the survivors fled. Amongst the slain was Wallace Mouton, Lord of Maidenpool. When his body was found a fortnight later by his brother, Manfred, nothing remained of him but charred flesh in melted armour. Yet nowhere on the Field of Ashes, littered with the bodies of the brave men and the burned and bloated carcasses of hundreds of horses, did Lord Manfred find King Aegon's dragon. Sunfire was gone, nor were there tracks, as surely there would have been had the dragon dragged himself away. Sunfire the Golden had taken wing once again, it seemed, to where no living man could say. Thousands of small folk streamed out of the city gates of King's Landing, carrying their children and worldly possessions on their backs, to seek safety in the countryside. Others dug pits and tunnels under their hovels, dark, dank holes where they hoped to hide while the city burned. Rioting broke out in Flea Bottom, when the sails of the Sea Snake's ships were seen to the east in Blackwater Bay, making for the river. The bells of every sept in the city began to ring, and mobs surged through the streets, looting as they went. Dozens died before the Gold Cloaks could restore the peace. With both the Lord Protector, Aemond, and the King's Hand, Sir Criston Cole, absent, and King Aegon himself, burned, bedridden, and lost in poppy dreams, fell to his mother, the Dowager Queen, to see to the city's defences. Queen Alicent rose to the challenge, closing the gates of the castle and the city, setting the gold cloaks to the walls, and dispatching riders on swift horses to find Aemond and fetch him back. As well, she commanded Grand Maester Orwell to send ravens to all our little lords, summoning them to defend their true king. When Orwell hastened back to his chambers, however, he found 4 gold cloaks waiting for him. One man muffled his cries as the other beat him and bound him. With a bag pulled over his head, the Grand Maester was escorted down into the black cells. Queen Alicent's riders got no further than the gates, where more gold cloaks took them into custody. Unbeknownst to Alicent, the 7 captains commanding the gates, chosen for their loyalty to King Aegon, had been imprisoned and murdered the moment Caraxes appeared in the sky above the city. For the rank and file of the city watch still loved Prince Dameon Targaryen, who was their commander of old. Queen Alicent's brother, Sir Gawain Hightower, second in command of the Gold Cloaks, rushed to the stables, intending to sound the warning. He was seized, disarmed, and dragged before his commander, Luther Largent. When Hightower denounced him as a turncloak, Sir Luther laughed. Daemon gave us these cloaks, and they're gold no matter how you turn them. Then he drove his sword through Gawain's belly and ordered the city gates open to the men pouring off the sea snake ships. For all the strength of its walls, King's Landing fell in less than a day. A short bloody fight was waged at the river gate, where 13 high tower knights and 100 men-at-arms drove off the gold cloaks and held out for nigh on 8 hours against attacks from within and outside the city. But the heroics were in vain, for Rhaenyra's soldiers poured through the other 6 gates unmolested. The sight of the Queen's dragons in the sky above took the heart out of the opposition, and King Aegon's remaining loyalists hid or fled or bent the knee. One by one, dragons made their descent. Sheepstealer lighted the top of Visenya's hill, Silverwing and Vermithor on top of the hill of Rhaenys, outside the dragon pit. Prince Daemon circled the towers of the Red Keep before bringing Caraxes down in the outer ward. Only when he was certain that the defenders would offer him no harm did he signal for his wife, the Queen, to descend upon Syrax. Adam Velaryon remained aloft, flying sea smoke around the city walls. The beat of his dragon's wide leathern wings cautioned to those below that any defiance would be met by fire. Upon seeing that resistance was hopeless, the Dowager Queen Alicent emerged from Maegor's holdfast with her father, Sir Otto Hightower, Sir Tywin Lannister, and Lord Jasper Wilde. Lord Larys Strong, the Master of Whisperers, was not with them. He had somehow contrived to disappear. Certain Eustace, a witness to what followed, tells us that Queen Alicent attempted to treat with her stepdaughter. Let us summon a great council, as the old king did in days of old, and lay the matter of succession before the lords of the realm. But Queen Rhaenyra rejected this proposal with scorn. "Do you mistake me for Mushroom?" she asked. "We both know how this council would rule." Then she bade her stepmother choose, yield or burn. Bowing her head in defeat, Queen Alicent surrendered the keys to the castle and ordered her knights and men-at-arms to lay down their swords. "The city is yours, princess," she is reported to have said, "but you will not hold it long. My son Aemond will return with fire and blood." Rhaenyra's men found her rival's wife, the mad queen Helena, locked in her bedchamber. But when they broke down the door of the king's apartments, they discovered only his empty bed. Aegon had fled. So had his children, the 6-year-old Princess Jaehaera and 2-year-old Prince Maelor, along with Willis Fell and Rickard Thorne of the Kingsguard. Not even the Dowager Queen seemed to know where they had gone, and Luther Largent swore none had passed through the city gate. There was no way to spirit away the Iron Throne, however, nor would Queen Rhaenyra sleep until she claimed her father's seat. So the torches were lit in the throne room, and the Queen climbed the iron steps and seated herself where King Viserys had sat before her, and the old king before him, and Maegor and Aenys and Aegon the Dragon in days of old. Stern-faced, still in her armour, she sat on high, as every man and woman in the Red Keep was brought forth and made to kneel before her, to plead for her forgiveness and swear their lives and swords to her honour as their queen. Septon Eustace tells us that the ceremony went on all through that night. It was well past dawn when Rhaenyra Targaryen rose and made her descent, and as her lord husband, Prince Daemon, escorted her from the halls, cuts were seen upon Rhaenyra's legs and the palm of her left hand. Droplets of blood fell to the floor as she walked past, and wise men looked at one another. Though none dared speak the truth aloud, the Iron Throne had spurned her, and her days on it would be few.